Hello and welcome to, what was it, the 10th
Yeah, it's the 10th.
Thinking Out Loud podcast. You can follow us on
Hey, let's
Instagram,
pipe
Facebook.
it! Naughty bugger.
Oh, how the tides have turned.
Oh, I'm infuriated now.
Yeah. Oh, God, well,
With
Anyway,
Dominic
it's
Cummings
been,
as well.
It's been an eventful day in the
Yes.
news.
it's been a very eventful day and with many twists and turns I don't think many people were expecting.
Yes.
Regarding...
Of all the people to violate the lockdown rules as well. Yes.
The
Well,
question...
I don't think he actually did much wrong.
I don't think he truly violated the
It
lockdown
might have been a
rules.
little transgression, but I
I
think the press are only having a go at him because he's the government's top advisor. I guess so. And there's people have always disliked Dominic Cummings, I guess.
Well, the thing
they want an excuse to get him out of office.
The thing you've got to ask yourself is, it's all right, all these people complaining about it, but in reality, how many people have bent the rules?
A lot.
Oh, bugger.
A lot.
A
And
lot.
at the end of the day,
not everybody's stuck wholly to the rules.
no matter what you think about him, sorry, Harry, he is the top aide to the most important man in the country.
Well, I think the situation as I see it, I mean, I can understand that it doesn't look terribly brilliant for the government, and I can kind of understand why some people might be a bit irritated by this. But the simple fact of the matter is, he was doing what he thought was in the best interests of his family. He was trying to make sure that they were secure. They clearly didn't feel secure or safe down in London, especially where you consider, and as has been proven over the last few days,
Yes.
that his home in central London is a target for people who hate him.
Well,
I mean,
yeah.
some of the behaviour on his street, outside his house, over the last couple of days has been disgraceful. Absolutely disgraceful. You've got journalists in there packed like a tin of sardines, trying to ask him the questions or try and get a silly snap of him.
And just asking bullshit questions.
Yeah, you've got people verbally abusing him and intimidating him. And, it can't be pleasant for his wife or his son, who's, 4 years old, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, my biggest issue is all the people complaining. You have to practice what you preach.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
If you don't practice what you preach, I don't think people take you seriously anyway.
The other thing is as well is that they're now claiming that it's undermining the government's PR strategy about staying alert or staying at home, which was the old strategy, and that it's going to lead to more deaths because people are just going to think, well, if he can break the rules, so can I.
Yeah,
But the thing is, though, the big hole in that argument is that Cummings, well, he didn't really break the rules. He was actually trying his best to follow the rules in an extremely complex situation so that he could look after the best interests of his family. He wasn't taking an extra jog in the park, or he wasn't deliberately setting out to break the rules that he created by going to a tourist or beauty spots. That's bullshit. People aren't.
As you say, he was only doing what he thought was right.
Yeah, people aren't going to break, but people aren't going to use this as an excuse to go and visit beauty spots, because that's not what he was doing. He was trying to get somewhere where he could self-isolate in a secure setting in which he could be sure that his family would be safe.
Up north.
Yeah, in County Durham.
Well, which is where he's from.
Yeah, it is where he is originally from. It's where his family lived. And I can honestly believe he knows nobody in London who would have been able to help him with childcare.
Not to mention all these reporters outside his home just trying to,
Yeah, I mean,
they can just behave brutally at times. The journalists. But
if the journalists really cared, like they say they do, about being safe, they wouldn't all be huddled up outside his house.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, there's a lot of people in the media who just despise Cummings. They absolutely hate the guy.
They've hated him since the referendum, I think.
Yes, it was since before the
and
referendum.
especially,
He's, they see him as a threat to their sort of little clique because he's different and he wants to do things differently. I accept, I accept he probably should have communicated what he said today a bit sooner. And I think he accepts that. I think that's been one of the big mistakes.
Situation, though, I think he did what he could, I guess,
Yeah, I mean,
without answering the questions.
Yeah, I mean, Boris's attempt to kind of clear him yesterday was a total disaster. I think we have to accept that, and in many ways made the situation worse.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I actually think he did the right thing in leaving it.
So do I.
In leaving it 3 days, because if he'd have come out straight away, everybody would have been so angry. They would have just gone all guns blazing. They wouldn't have had time to think about anything, and I think he did the right thing.
Yeah.
No, but the issue that we have with leaving it till now is that it's built up a lot of confusion and led to a lot of these a lot of these false stories that he went back up to County Durham a second time, possibly even a third time, which he said is
fuel bill must be massive.
It's bollocks that he did
set
that.
There's straight now. And the thing is, when people say it causes confusion, without sounding harsh, it only causes confusion to people that have very small brains and can't think for themselves.
Well, that is
or they're
true.
told what the media says.
Any normal person, isn't going to go outside just because Dominic Cummings did it.
Well, exactly.
I guess it's just like if he can do it, so can we. I guess that kind of message.
It's the same thing as just if someone jumped off a bridge, would you do it? It's just the only people.
Bit of an extreme example, though.
Well, that's where
I see what you mean, though.
That's where the big hole in the press's argument that it's just going to lead to more people defying the rules. That the big hole in that argument is that Cummings was trying to get somewhere to be truly self-isolated. He wasn't breaking the rules that set out completely in stone, about staying at home or whatever. He was trying to get somewhere where he could self-isolate and keep his family secure and make sure that if anything bad happened to him and his wife, his 4-year-old son was looked after. The media are taking that and saying, but people are going to break the lockdown rules because of this. Why would they? He was trying to get away somewhere.
Until we see people
isolate.
Breaking the rules, I mean, it could be. Well, it's just an unsubstantiated claim, in my opinion.
Yeah. One thing that annoyed me about
that happening anyway.
Something that annoyed me about his press conferences, though, it's almost like the journalists didn't actually listen because they just asked him.
They're just trying to get a narrative, I think.
They asked him, kept asking him, "Do you regret it?" Well, the whole point of the speech was him saying that he doesn't regret it.
No, he was trying to basically just clear the air, I think, a bit. And
I mean, someone asked.
To be honest, the thing with Dominic Cummings, he's notorious for being extremely, not dismissive, but short with members of the media.
Standoffish.
Standoffish. To be quite honest, I think the most remarkable thing today is that he didn't throw an F-bomb in and storm off, because I would have done if I was in that situation. Because it was a long, bloody press conference. And he was asked the same question over and over again.
I thought, given the circumstances, he did well in that press conference.
Not to mention that he was...
Then again, when you are live on national television, you have to cool it down a bit.
He was half an hour late.
Half an hour? Good grief.
I bet he was just...
I must say, I didn't watch it live. I was out of the house at the time.
I think my guess is that he was probably just trolling the media and waiting to see how long they'd wait.
Yeah, I mean,
they probably questioned him about that as well if they got the chance.
They didn't, actually.
One of the most annoying questions was...
They questioned him about the fuel, though.
Was do you think you should apologise to people because you've had the resources that they haven't? Well, that's just stupid.
That's just stupid. I mean,
It's not
Yeah,
like
if
he
you're
went
gonna-
on a day trip up to Durham. I think he had a legitimate reason.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's why I'm pissed off with this idea that people are just going to use it as an excuse to break the lockdown rules. They're not. He was trying to get away to somewhere where he could self-isolate and make sure his family was secure. It wasn't about going on a day trip to Scarborough or whatever. It wasn't about that. If he'd gone on a day trip to Scarborough, then of course he must resign. But that's not what he's done.
The only good thing about Scarborough is fish and chips, and that's it. But
Yeah,
he didn't go down
shit, though.
He didn't go up to Scarborough anyway. So,
no, I can't say.
But
Scarborough.
as I say, I think the media have
place.
had this narrative against Cummings from day one, and they'll always want him out. I think.
And I think to be honest, I think in reality, if you actually did a poll of who actually cares about this story, I would bet money on it that 80% of the British public do not care.
The only reason I've really paid attention to it is because the media have made a big deal of it.
It's like the media did with Brexit. It's like they did with Brexit. They blow things out of proportion, and it turns out then they get a shock like the Brexit vote.
Or the panic buying. Earlier this year.
People don't actually care.
That's the thing. I mean, it's just the way that it's like after the press conference actually ended, so one of the BBC journalists said, but this is a major embarrassment for them because it's going to be something that's dragged on for a while and is probably going to be dragged on for a while more. That's because you, the media, have dragged it out, pillars.
Can they not see the irony in what they've just said?
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot more important things to be discussing right now, other than whether a man who has terrible dress sense and looks a little bit like Gollum off Lord of the Rings has been able to try and get somewhere to self-isolate with his wife and son.
But that was brilliant.
Who was also seriously ill at the time.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, yeah, but I think it's been blown out of proportion.
I think it's been
typical media,
horrendous.
And like I say, most of the people that are complaining about this have also bent the rules.
Oh yeah, well, and it's
they've probably held garden parties or something like that.
Well,
I saw on the news this massive big fat guy that had gone to a beach, and they'd basically asked him, "Why are you here?" And he went, "Oh, because Dominic Cummings went to Durham." And I just thought, you absolute idiot.
Well, if he can do it, I can do it.
It wasn't Paul McCartney.
I wasn't trying to sound like Paul McCartney, thank you very much.
But the fact of the matter is that, it's like with the Labour Party. I mean, there's been 4 instances where Labour politicians have broken the rules laid out by the government. They haven't been punished. I mean, Labour's health minister in Wales, who's a guy called Vaughan Gething, he broke his own advice by going for a picnic in one of the parks in Cardiff with his family.
Oh, an idiot!
And then you've got Stephen Kinnock, who's Neil Kinnock's son, who's a Labour MP.
Oh, dear. Worst kind of Labour.
Who drove hundreds of miles to see his parents. He drove hundreds of miles to see his parents.
Kinnock the Pinnock.
Then you've got Tahir Ali, who's one of the Labour MPs in Birmingham. He went to a bloody mass funeral during the lockdown. Yeah, over 100 people.
What? Whose funeral was it? Was it
somebody in his community? I don't know who it was.
Oh, right. That's quite an impressive number of people.
This is completely off topic, but have you got a new computer, Harry?
I think my dad bought a new computer the other day. Yeah.
All right.
Looks good.
Yeah. It's just the same box that I have.
Well, you're thinking outside the box for that one.
God.
What were you saying? Sorry, Matt.
Yeah,
I was just pointing out hypocrisy from people who don't like Cummings and whatnot. It's just not a nice situation, and do I think it's not a particularly good look for Dominic Cummings? yes, it probably is. Not
The
But
thing
then
is,
he's never been the best for PR anyway.
The thing is, he does not care at all.
I know he doesn't.
Yeah, absolutely,
care.
and I think that's why the media don't like him that much.
And then I don't. But do I think it's going to cost us the next election? No, the next election is 4.5 years away. We've got plenty of time to rectify this situation. It's ludicrous to suggest,
unless there's some national catastrophe or something,
election,
which will probably never happen.
We're in the middle of a national catastrophe.
But one that would be enough to call a general election.
Not a national catastrophe, a worldwide catastrophe.
Well, worldwide catastrophe, but and I don't think legally he certainly hasn't done anything wrong. I think morally he was working in the best interest of his wife and son.
Again, it wasn't communicated in the best light, but I think it's understandable.
The communication, and this has been a running issue with the government in this crisis, communication's not been great. And they could have cleared things up probably a bit sooner, like attacking the follow-up stories from the Guardian and the Mirror, saying that he made a second and possibly even a third trip up to County Durham. They could have quashed that fairly quickly by saying that's bullshit, but they didn't, and the media ran with it. And it's taken him until today to state that those stories are absolute garbage.
Or toilet paper.
Anyway, apparently it's been announced that non-essential shops are opening on the 15th.
Thank fuck.
Hang on, have you guys seen it?
No, I haven't seen it.
Has this literally just come in?
The briefing was delayed till 7 because the Cummings press conference went on for so long.
Oh, yes, understandably.
Oh, here we go. Shops to reopen in June as Boris Johnson maps route out of lockdown. Apparently, non-essential shops can open on the 15th of June.
15th of June. I wonder how many people will be queuing outside the big shops.
Well, I won't be queuing outside.
Well, I won't be queuing, but...
I've got no interest.
I'd rather buy everything online than go into a shop again.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, I think there's going to be a large change in people's work and shopping cultures as a result of this.
Absolutely.
What?
What have you done?
What have you
done?
Calm
down, George. Calm down.
What have you done?
The headline. Oh God! The headline under the one that I just under the one I just read.
Spit it
out. Please tell us. I'm intrigued to hear what it is.
Reads as follows: Brian May suffered heart attack after ripping a muscle in his buttock.
What an asshole!
We shouldn't laugh because he's had a heart attack, but how do you have a heart? I mean, I suppose
whilst gardening.
I honestly don't know. Was he not trying to find a badger or something in his garden?
He said apparently he was gardening and ripped a muscle in his buttock and had a heart attack.
Well, to be fair, he is 72.
That's how Elvis. That's almost how Elvis died, wasn't it?
No, he died of a toilet, didn't he?
Yeah, but he was having a.
Spit it out, man! Spit it out! Come on!
If he was trying to have a shit that bad that caused him a heart attack, surely he'd have ripped a muscle in his arse.
I think, however, whatever way you look at it, they're both very shitty situations.
Oh, for God's sake!
Gosh.
Oh, that's a funny headline. We shouldn't laugh. It's more the fact that it's more the fact that it's Brian May.
Unfortunately, he did have a sheer heart attack, so let's take that seriously.
In fact, I did see.
He was probably a bit under pressure as well.
Oh, for God's sake!
Another one bites the dust.
I was just gonna say.
Oh God!
And then his wife said, "You know, Brian, who does want to live forever after all?"
I was just about to say that.
Sure, it wasn't the March of the Black Queen.
Oh,
He would have been in the lap of the gods though if he'd have died.
Keep yourself alive, man.
Oh,
Whatever, guys. The show must go on.
Okay.
maybe his arse muscle wanted to break free.
Okay, I think that's
Careful,
enough.
you just want it all now.
Oh,
I think this is enough back chat for now.
Don't stop me now. I'm having a good time about this.
Oh God.
Oh dear. Only we could get into that amount of punning.
Oh dear. Hang on, Matt's frozen. Matt's frozen.
I'm going to take a screenshot. I've got a screenshot. I've got a screenshot of you.
Sorry, my Wi-Fi went down again.
Have you tried turning it off and on again?
Yes, I damn well have. Oh.
Anyway, what were we talking about before Brian May's ripped buttock?
Well, I think
where were we
about to move on. We were just about to move on from Dominic Cummings, I think.
We were talking about shops.
Oh, shops reopening, yeah.
Oh, yes.
I haven't actually read which ones are opening. It might say.
Yeah.
Well, I imagine.
I haven't really read into this much either. I thought it was.
I imagine
it's literally just happened.
It's literally just happened.
In the briefing that happened today.
Yeah, I imagine it'll be places. I imagine like probably video game shops and clothes shops.
Yeah, you can get Grand Theft Auto 5.
Like furniture shops and stuff like that. Libraries, bookshops.
On the plus side, libraries.
Like
it just says shops. I hope they open hairdressers though.
Oh my God, yeah. I mean, seriously.
Since the lockdown, my hair has grown quadruple.
Have you had a haircut since the lockdown?
No, it's why I'm wearing a baseball cap. It's because I'm having a bad hair day as well.
I've had one. I mean, I allow my mum to cut my hair.
Did she pin you down and force it? Oh, sorry, that sounded wrong.
Moving on.
Moving on.
Did she force you to have a haircut? Is what I meant.
No, I needed one. I know when I need a haircut when my hair starts to grow right over my ears.
Yeah,
okay,
that's what mine's doing.
Yeah, I mean,
you look like you come out the heavy metal band Napalm Death, George.
Because
probably not that.
Well, the thing with the hairdressers, it's like obviously they have to touch your head and your face and not like that.
Maybe move on.
No, but no. So, I mean, one way that it could work with opening hairdressers up is that you have to wear a mask, say, if you want to go and get a haircut.
I don't think that'll do much good, to be honest.
Well, it's more about stopping transmission.
If they cough on my head, they'll be held to pee.
Oh, it's to pay, not to pee. What are you suggesting? You're going to have a splash on your head?
I think the
hairstyle.
If they're going to sort of open shops and stuff, then that's basically just going to make everybody just carry on as normal.
Freebies, yeah.
Freebies. Everybody goes into the shops. What's wrong with that?
I just can't wait for them to get the bloody pubs open.
Yeah, I think
it's not going to happen until July, I believe.
Yeah, the pubs will be later.
I know they will, but my God, they're not.
And even then, there'll be quite a bit of social distancing, I should imagine, in the pubs.
I think when the pubs
there will be.
When the pubs are open, I think it'll be a case of order your beer and go outside and drink it.
Yeah,
pretty much.
Yeah, I didn't know street drinking was about to become cool.
Well, that's if you have a beer gut.
Oh, Matt, I was going to take a screenshot of you.
But it is if you have a beer garden, though. That's the thing.
Oh, I forgot.
Even then, it can be a bit difficult to social distance in a beer garden.
I forgot to mention about when we were talking about Dominic Cummings. What the hell was that noise going on?
Oh, God, at the start.
While he was speaking.
That went on for about 10 minutes.
It sounded like my neighbour's peacocks.
It sounded like... Is
that literally what it sounded like?
No, it sounded like an out-of-tune sax, is what it sounded like. Because it was just people blowing random saxophone notes. So that's what it sounded like. It was so annoying, I nearly switched it off.
Well, I did think... I mean, they obviously did it to disrupt it, but I did think, why didn't the police just stop it? And second of all, if everyone's
everyone's got to blow their trumpet now and then.
If everyone's complaining that Dominic Cummings hasn't said something, when he does say something, don't blow whatever you're blowing.
You can't win with people like them.
For God's sake.
You can't win with people like that. They'll criticise him whether he's making a speech, and they'll criticise him whenever he's not making a speech. You just can't win.
It's the thing as well, like with like when we won the election, there were people protesting outside of Downing Street then.
Permission to say damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, it's a tough one in that situation. Anyway.
Even so, I'd love... that's quite amusing to hear that it sounded like some peacocks at the start of the press conference.
It did.
Yeah, it was awful.
Because I thought it was something outside, and then I realised that it was going on there.
In London. Yeah.
That is quite amusing.
What else can we talk about?
Spain trialling a basic universal income. Well, what do you think to this universal income?
Well, Finland tried it and it didn't work. That's all I'm going to say.
Surprise. A good idea on paper, but not in reality.
I haven't heard about this.
Basically, a universal basic income is basically it's a form of welfare essentially. And the trouble with the universal basic income is that it doesn't work because the whole point of welfare is that it should exist, but it should try and help you in as quick a way as possible.
Because they're
giving it to help you try and get into a job. Now,
they're giving it to welfare people as well, I believe.
Well, that's just stupid. But they tried it in Finland last year. They tried a universal basic income, I think, for about 4 or 5 months, possibly 6 months. I can't quite remember how long it was. And the results of the study found that it made people happier, but it didn't make them either better off or made them get a job quicker. So what's the point?
It just encouraged them to sit on their bottoms all the year round.
Well, exactly. That's the thing. I mean, it just doesn't work. That's my opinion.
On the plus side, sorry, Matt, carry on.
It doesn't. The whole point of welfare is not to make people happy. It's to try and help people to survive as long as they can if they need welfare without a job until they get a flaming job where they can pay for themselves. You don't want a situation in a country where the only thing that is making people happy is the type of welfare that they have.
Yeah, I think it's a bit patronising as well that they're giving it to wealthy people as well. Sorry, I'm trying to charge my laptop.
If that's the truth, then that is a daft idea.
Literally, that's part of the plan in Spain. They're actually trying to.
Well, it's like
I'm not joking. They're actually doing that.
Well, it's like in this country, you get plenty of these elderly people who are a lot of them are pretty well off, who get like their winter fuel allowance and their free bus pass. They don't bloody need it.
But don't you benefit from it, Matt?
Shut up. I'm not old. You're actually older than me, Harry, so you can
age makes no difference here, Matt.
Hang on, who is the youngest?
You.
Oh, it's me.
You're a 98 baby. Me and Matt were 97 babies.
Well, hang on, when are your birthdays?
20th of November.
10th of December.
Oh, right.
So damn,
so Matt is nearly...
Mentally, you are the older man, though, Matt. Let's put it that way.
Well, because I matured the quickest.
I'm off.
Anyway,
you got me there.
Back to Spain.
Oh yeah, they're
actually,
also
another,
protesting against lockdown, aren't they?
there were some protests against lockdown in some regions of Spain. I mean, the thing is, it's like a lot of the protests were kind of aided and abetted by a political party called Vox. Now, the interesting thing with Spain is that Spain was one of the last countries where populist right-wing parties kind of got a bit of a foothold. It's like in France, you had the National Front, which then became the National Rally. Germany, you had the AfD. Italy, you had the League. Poland, you had Law and Justice. Hungary, you had Fidesz, etc., etc., etc. And then in Spain, you had these guys called Vox come along, who initially, they kind of emerged out of the ruins of the Catalan separatist crisis, because Vox is against like all form of secession of any part of Spain from what is currently constitutes Spain. So they're against Catalonian independence, they're against Basque independence, and so on. It took them a little while to get a foothold, but Spain then had quite a lot of migrants turn up, and Vox kind of, rather unfortunately, exploited that situation. Now they're the third largest they're the third largest party in the Spanish Parliament now, and they're in government in some regions in Spain. I kind of get some of their points. Like they are on about like Spanish national identity and how it's under threat. But the issue I have with that is that they're not providing an awful lot of evidence to show that that's necessarily the case. They've moved from their original point, which was Spanish unity, to sort of peddling a lot of deeply unpleasant stuff, and even stuff surrounding Franco, who was the former fascist dictator. Because there's a big debate in Spain. Franco's currently. This is Francisco Franco, about. He ruled Spain for about. Oh God, it was about 35 years or something.
To 1975.
He died in 1975. Yeah, he was one of the few 20th century dictators to actually die in his own bed peacefully.
What
the hell was that?
Oh dear. The slot machine last week, and now
for some reason,
my
timer is going off. Anyway,
why does it sound like a duck?
It is a duck.
Oh.
It's not a literal duck.
Anyway, carry on.
But the interesting thing there's a big debate in Spain about Franco at the moment, because he's currently buried in a massive kind of mausoleum.
Toilet. A bit like the Kims in North Korea.
Yeah, kind of. And it's very, very big. And the issue is that a lot of people who don't like Franco sort of say, oh, this is glorifying a fascist and a dictator and whatnot. I mean, he wasn't really a fascist. He was just your he was essentially your very socially conservative military dictator type. He wasn't really a fascist.
I didn't know him to be a true fascist like Hitler.
No, he was a fascist when it suited him, which was during the Spanish Civil War, when he could get support from Hitler and Mussolini.
But he was more a follower than a leader, I imagine.
Yeah.
On the international stage, I mean.
Yeah, but ideologically, I wouldn't argue he was a genuine fascist. Like I said, he was more your typical, very socially conservative military dictator type. Still, not a very pleasant bloke. I mean, he did some pretty awful things to certain groups in Spain, like the Basques. He was horrendous to.
He was pretty horrible to the Catalans as well, wasn't he?
He was. He basically banned the Catalan language. And
that is not on at all.
No, and it was, and I mean, there's a bit of a misunderstanding with how.
It's like us banning the Welsh language.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I mean,
it wouldn't do much because no one speaks it. There's about 5 of them.
Apart from the Welsh nationalists, which are
quite a lot of Welsh people
100
do speak
100 Welsh nationalists.
I'm gonna Google this.
But the thing is that
aggressive rodents hunt for food. Oh, sorry. That literally just came up on the BBC live reporting. Sorry.
Is that how they're describing the press going after Dominic Cummings?
No, actually.
There we go. The census determined that 18.56% of the population of Wales can speak Welsh.
It's a sizable amount.
That's not an awful lot, though.
I'm not against. Why should anybody be against the destruction of different languages? It's like,
it's just that it's
absolutely.
It is a pretty pointless language.
I don't know.
In the same way that Latin is now pointless, Welsh is pointless.
Yeah,
Latin is a dead language.
But
as is Welsh.
World.
Yeah, but if you're a doctor, you need to know a bit of Latin. Or a zoologist or a botanist.
But it's not like 1950s.
Yeah, but you would never you would never speak Latin to a patient.
Well, no, but you need to know all the Latin names for things. I mean,
especially when
I like Latin. I
think
it's quite a nice language, is Latin.
Oh yeah, but no one speaks it. My argument is that
it's a very influential language, though, as well.
My argument is that Welsh, the Welsh language. What the hell was that?
What happened? I don't know what's happened.
That was not me farting, I promise.
What was that?
I didn't hear anything.
You missed out, Matt, because there was this loud car-like noise. I've been listening to it after a few Brussels sprouts, or
that might have been
going on.
That might have been outside my house. I've got my bedroom window open because it's hot.
Or hopefully nobody was eating Brussels sprouts or anything like that.
Anyway, my argument is that the Welsh language, like the Latin language, is now basically pointless. The Welsh language will turn into that.
Well,
Welsh is not as influential as Latin. I think Welsh is kind of a how do I say it?
Pointless.
Yeah.
how can
I wouldn't
you
say
not
pointless, but just underspoken.
But how can you
I don't know
not
how else to say it, honestly.
How can you not appreciate a language that has a word called popty ping in it, which is Welsh for microwave?
Popty
ping.
Let's be honest though. When
popty ping. Get some microwave soup out.
Let's be honest. And every Welsh word seems to be twice as long as its English equivalent.
And you need and as Blackadder said, you need half a pint of spit in your throat to pronounce the place.
Do any of you know any Welsh words, sorry? Other than...
Well, apart from popty ping, no.
Oh, exactly.
No.
Exactly.
Actually, they all seem
the Welsh for Wales
is about 1 million G's in.
The Welsh for Wales is Cymru.
Yeah, sheep shaggers.
The Welsh for Wales is Cymru, and the Welsh for party is Plaid.
Plaid Cymru.
I know that they
Party of Wales, I presume it translates.
I know they sound like they've got a bad throat infection when they speak. They're constantly going.
I'll tell you one language I don't get. Irish.
No.
You sounded Indian then, Harry. For God's sake, man.
Very bad.
No, the Irish language.
To be sure.
I don't understand the Irish language.
Irish words.
For example, the way they spell Owen is EOIN.
I heard
EOIN.
That's Eoin.
How are you doing?
I heard that Ireland is the what?
Eoin.
I heard that Ireland is the place where the streets have no name.
I still haven't found what I'm looking for.
Oh, God's sake.
I waited at the Joshua tree.
Stop with the U2 references, please.
But it was a beautiful day today.
Oh, for Christ's sake. Any minute it's going to be bloody Sunday.
No, that was yesterday.
Yeah.
Oh, have you seen that?
On New Year's Day?
Have you seen the Alan Partridge sketch where he's trying to impress some Irish TV executives, and they
Was that the first episode, or?
No, that was the one where he has the super fan.
I can't remember that one.
Anyway,
I don't know anything about Alan Partridge.
These two Irish.
You're missing out, Matt.
These two Irish TV executives are going on about U2, and Alan Partridge goes, "Oh, I just love Bloody Sunday." Really encapsulates the frustration of Sundays. You just wake up in the morning and think, "I've got to read the papers, I've got to do this," and you just think, "Sunday, Bloody Sunday." It's really funny.
You're pretty much... Before you two sold out, basically.
Yeah,
I've got quite a funny story. It's linked to Ireland. When Tony Blair and New Labour came to power in 1997, at the Foreign Office, there was a portrait in the office of the Foreign Secretary. I think it was a portrait. Don't know whether it was the current Queen or a previous monarch or something like that. And New Labour.
This isn't going to end well.
Well, and Robin Cook, who was then the Labour Foreign Secretary, and Tony Blair thought, we're new, we need to modernise, and thought, let's be hip and cool about this. So they replaced the portrait of whichever monarch it was in the Foreign Secretary's office with a portrait of Oliver Cromwell. He was like the country's first Republican leader. But of course, Oliver Cromwell was responsible for the deaths of an awful lot of Irish people.
Drogheda.
Drogheda. Yeah, and
Drogheda,
other
sorry,
places. Yeah. At Drogheda and other places like that, where he basically wiped out the entire town of Drogheda.
He was pretty brutal in that, I must admit.
And guess who Robin Cook's first visitor was at the Foreign Office?
Jerry Adams?
The IRA?
The Irish Prime Minister.
Right.
And he saw the portrait of Oliver Cromwell, and it didn't go well at all.
No.
He was quite offended that they'd put up a portrait of a guy who basically killed thousands of Irish people.
I would be interested.
Hello, Irish PM. Here's a few portraits. Oh, damn, this guy killed all our people, basically.
Like there's bloody potatoes.
I like my mashed, please.
Well, they didn't have enough of them. That was the problem.
Like Alan Partridge says, at the end of the day, you are going to pay the price if you're a fussy eater.
Alan Partridge is just brilliant.
Oh, Christ.
This is probably a good discussion point. I watched a programme on Harry and Meghan.
Oh, nice.
Oh,
I mean, what do you
shot
guys?
Wallace Simpson.
What do you guys? What do you guys think of that whole situation?
He's betraying the Queen, I guess.
Well,
but at the end of the day, as long as he's happy, I'm not.
Well, there is that. Well, there is that argument, but I'm sorry, some of the stuff they've come out with has just been atrocious. I mean,
I wonder if. Sorry, Matt.
But the thing is, it's like they're saying, oh, the press have been hounding her and all that stuff. When Harry first announced she was getting married to her, the press were lapping it up, and people thought it was the best thing since sliced bread for the royal family and all that kind of stuff. And all she's done is treat the institution of the royal family and that of the Queen in particular with utter contempt.
She's like a narcissist trying to isolate him from his family, I guess.
Well, that's
what some people compared it to.
The thing that annoys me is the fact that they were quite happy to receive taxpayers' money for a massive wedding. They were quite happy to receive £2.1 million to renovate their cottage.
Exactly.
And then as soon as they'd got everything they wanted, that's when they buggered off.
Yeah. Thank you very much, taxpayer. We're not going to spare any more of your money for our projects. Bye-bye.
I'm sorry.
And now they've gone to Los Angeles and basically made the royal family look like, the
Kardashians,
LA celebrities, which is just not.
Imagine
the Queen as an LA celebrity.
Yeah, rolling along
to be fair, some Americans think she's.
Rolling along the strip with doing the peace sign with sunglasses on, smoking a massive joint. You can't imagine the Queen doing that. And be
Can imagine Philip doing
it. Actually, Philip probably would do that.
He'd be careful not to call the people in Chinatown with slitty eyes.
Well, yeah.
Well,
The thing is,
then you've got Charles, and he'd be so interested in
cheese,
in cheese and organic biscuits, and he'd probably talk to all the celebrities about how to become a vegan or something.
Oh, let's not go too far about vegans here.
Well, I could talk all day about how hypocritical vegans are.
Go on, let it
I
out
just say that
if you
they're
must.
Well, they
maybe
are
on
mad.
another program, maybe on another podcast.
I don't like how they.
Okay, I'll write that down somewhere.
Let him carry on.
What?
Sorry, who's
carry on?
About the vegans, right.
I do not like how they preach to everybody. It's just
carry on.
It's just not on.
Yeah, I think they can be a bit self-righteous as well. Not all, but there seems to be a lot of them that just seem to have this, we're vegans, so we're better than you. And it's quite an arrogant way to think, I think, as well.
Very arrogant way to live. I mean, they essentially want to destroy hundreds of people's livelihoods. Like we're talking farmers, people who work in abattoirs, butchers, all that kind of stuff. So they can get stuffed as far as I'm.
Yeah, most of the time they're just talking porkies anyway as well. I did not mean that.
I thought that was a
bacon. Anyone?
No? Well, I mean, I'd go with bacon. It's not very good for you.
I did make a mistake.
A bit of bacon doesn't hurt.
I did make a mistake today in that basically my Clive's work computer was having some issues. So one of
Clive being George's stepdad.
Yeah, one of the IT
cool guy.
One of the IT people from work was coming to fix it. I was making a bacon sandwich at this point, and then Clive told me the man who's coming is a Muslim.
Oh no! And you were making bacon sandwiches.
Yes.
Oh shit!
Yeah.
How did that go?
I just quickly turned the fan on to try and get rid of the smell, and just took it outside.
I can imagine being a fly on the wall watching that in progress.
Yeah, if you like it. Yeah, I mean, if
Ivan, so would you like a bacon sandwich?
It wouldn't have gone well if a Jewish person turned up either, because it's not kosher.
Speaking of cock-ups, you should probably tell the chicken feed story. Not the chicken feed.
Yeah. What chicken feed? Who's had the chicken feed?
Oh
Fish
God,
feed?
Dad's going to kill me for telling this, but it was him, and it's one of the funniest things that's happened to me for a long time. Right, basically, last week, in our garden, we have a little pond where we keep some fish, and obviously they need feeding, and Dad usually feeds the fish. And him and Mum, it was about 8 o'clock in the morning. Him and Mum were both downstairs, and they were talking. They were talking about something, and they had a disagreement. And Dad was prepping to feed the fish, and then I could hear Mum just howling with laughter for about 5 minutes. So I went downstairs to see what was going on. What had happened is that basically, Dad had got the fish food prepared. He always puts it in the lid of the tub and then just scatters it into the pond, which is how you're supposed to do it. And him and Mum were talking about something. They disagreed, and Dad says, "Oh, I've had enough. I'm in a fluster. I just need to go to the loo." So he went into the loo. He came out about 2 seconds later, and he looked rather sheepish, and he said, "I've just poured the fish food down the toilet."
No, the fish food does not belong on the toilet, Mr. Fender.
Well, I suppose, considering that our sewage eventually goes to the ocean, he'll be feeding some other fish somewhere.
Maybe he should do it. Maybe he should feed the fish in your garden and then just pour some down the toilet as well. The fish food, not the actual fish.
To be fair, I have done things like that before where, for example, if I've got some cereal or something, I've accidentally poured orange juice into it instead of milk.
You sound like a serial killer.
I think it's just because you have the thing in your hand.
Oh,
Yeah.
It's pretty easy to do, especially if you're not.
I think I've done baking where I've put salt instead of sugar in.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of the classic mistakes.
That is pretty epically funny.
Oh God.
Oh my word! Is there a race going on outside your house?
It does sound like an F1 car.
That was a motorbike.
Who's having MotoGP outside their house?
It was just somebody on a motorbike. I live on an A road, for Christ's sake. I've lived on an A road for 22 bloody years.
Wow, that's saying something.
Yeah.
Well, to say all these cars go past, it's a wonder that you drive the way you do.
Oh, shit. Look, who was the one who passed their practical first time?
Oh, here we go again. Here comes this epic.
It did you, but it took you 7... how many times was it?
Viewers, I'm sorry to say this, but this is going to be an interesting debate on how crap they're all driving.
4 times to pass the theory test.
Well, yes, but...
And then you drove with no headlights on without realising.
That was once. That was once.
Did you try turning them off and on again?
They were never on in the first place.
It was once I drove with my headlights off. Once.
Well, one thing we should discuss, which me and Matt talked about today, is Carl Pilkington.
Who's Carl Pilkington?
Oh, God, yeah. Right.
Oh, you've never seen An Idiot Abroad?
Oh, is that who he is?
He's the bloke on that, yeah.
Sorry, I literally have no idea about all this. I'm not doing it to mess you about. I genuinely
right, basically, obviously, you'll know of Ricky Gervais and Stephen Merchant.
Absolutely.
Well, Ricky Gervais, I don't know if he still does it, but he used to host his own podcast, which with Stephen Merchant.
He doesn't do it anymore.
No, he doesn't. Okay. And it was originally
just... It's an alien outside your house.
It was originally just those two. And then Carl Pilkington, when it started, worked as a producer for Ricky Gervais on the podcast and on some other things, I think, as well. And Ricky Gervais just found him hilarious, like genuinely hilarious. And Ricky Gervais decided, I've got to have you on the show, on the podcast. So they brought him on. And the thing is with Carl Pilkington, he sees the world differently to everybody else. I think that's the best way of putting it. Like, he's not overawed by anything. Then. He's not overawed by anything.
He wouldn't get on with you, Harry. He's the most dull. He's the most unhappy person in the world.
Oh,
yeah. He went. To
I thought you meant because he doesn't care about anything, you know.
Well, on An Idiot Abroad, they sent him to the Great Wall of China, and he thought it was shit. Yeah, I mean, he's not interested in anything that an ordinary person might be interested in. He's got a very insular mentality. Like, he's excited by a ham and cheese sandwich.
To be fair, ham and cheese sandwiches are delicious, but how can you not be excited by the Great Wall of China?
That's the thing.
What a strange fellow.
There's something
he just thought, well,
holy fuck.
Well, the thing is that the thing is that.
Don't you mean holy fook?
Holy fook.
Well, the thing is that
you dumb son.
Well, the thing is that he said, well, they did it up in the 1980s. So what's so special about that?
He's just another brick in the wall, by the sounds of it.
Well, it costs a lot of money, obviously.
That's just a real shame that he's not really interested in it.
But he's so funny. I mean,
it must be a bit boring.
But he's
not Carl Pilkington, that is.
It's his boring nature that makes him funny, because he just comes out with stuff that you'd never expect him to come out with.
Alive?
What?
What?
Oh, I just said alive, that's all.
He is.
I
Yes,
don't know
he
why.
is
I
alive.
don't know why. I don't know why that came into my head then.
Are you referencing Pearl Jam or something?
Oh no! But that is a great song in itself.
I can put you in touch with Jeremy if you want.
Only once.
Oh
Or
God.
10 times. For reference, this is in reference to Pearl Jam's debut album 10. Absolute classic of the 1990s.
In fairness, viewers, I have no idea what they're talking about.
A great band,
Yeah.
I assure you, viewers. A great band.
It's a very even
Yeah.
flow of song ideas. On this.
I'll tell you one thing that I am a couple of things I'm looking forward to as well. Being able to go to a gig again and being able to go to the cinema.
Yeah,
Yes.
gigs won't be happening for a long time.
I know
Have they
that.
announced...
That's it.
Sorry to interrupt, but have they announced anything about when cinemas are going to reopen, or is it later than the non-essentials?
As far as I'm aware, some movie companies have started up production on their films again, and some television companies like EastEnders has started filming again. I know that
Oh,
from
no.
BBC. And
Terrible.
some film companies have started up. Can I finish?
Sorry, Jeremy Corbyn.
But some film companies have started up production again, apparently on their films, like Marvel has, for example, on their projects.
Have they made a new superhero or something? Mr. Vaccine.
That will be the title of the new Marvel movie next year, we hope.
I mean, Kevin Feige is a genius, but I don't think he's that much of a genius.
No.
That's a good idea, though.
Yeah, it's a good idea. I mean, maybe this was Thanos' plan all along. This was the way to wipe out half the universe's population.
Yeah. Well, he's failed if he was aiming for half.
Well, he failed anyway in the end, didn't he?
Did Spider-Man die?
He was vaporized in Infinity War, but was brought back in Endgame with everybody else who was vaporized because they undid everything. Do you want me to explain the entire plot of Avengers Infinity War and the entire plot of Avengers Endgame?
Spider-Man by himself is a decent superhero, but as soon as you put him up against men, he just looks like a scrawny little brat.
Yeah, he is.
Scrawny little brat shooting webs out of his hand.
That's kind of the point with Spider-Man, though, is that he is a bit of a scrawny brat.
Oh yeah, but in the Spider-Man films, I prefer him to in Avengers.
When he's on his own, as opposed to...
To be fair, I do not like the new Spider-Man actors. The best one was Tobey Maguire by far.
I've never seen the Tobey Maguire films.
I don't really keep up.
Never
I don't
seen
really
them.
keep up with these kinds of movies, I'm afraid.
I know that Spider-Man 3's not got the best reputation.
No.
I thought the first one was very good. But I guess that was because it was groundbreaking for its time.
Yeah, it was the first...
it was the first one of the big first movies with modern CGI, I believe.
Well, the thing is that they had Tobey Maguire. Then Andrew Garfield did a couple of Spider-Man films, which I don't think were terribly good.
No.
And then they brought in Tom Holland for the MCU. And I think Tom Holland's quite good, actually. I quite like his interpretation of Spider-Man.
My favourite Marvel films are X-Men.
Oh, X-Men. That's very decent, I must say.
The trouble with the X-Men films is that they ended up doing what Marvel didn't, which was essentially go completely just off the rails in terms of how crap they ended up being. Like Dark Phoenix was shocking.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
I guess that's the thing about... Sorry.
The best thing that the X-Men series provided was Deadpool.
Oh, Deadpool's very good, I must say, as well.
Deadpool is fucking amazing.
Yeah.
I love Deadpool.
I haven't seen that.
It's one of the very few superhero movies I genuinely like. It's that good.
It's just so funny. It's such a funny film.
Have you seen the second one as well?
No, I haven't seen the second one. I watched the first
it's
one when
pretty good in its own right as well. As this...
I watched the first one when I was at uni, and it was one of the best films I've ever seen. Deadpool. It's just hilarious.
Yes.
I mean, they improvised a huge amount of it, which kind of suits the Deadpool character. And
I didn't realise that a lot of Voldemort's bits in Harry Potter are all improvised.
Really?
Were they?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Apparently, I always forget his name. Who played him?
Ralph Fiennes.
Yeah,
Ralph Fiennes.
Yeah. Apparently, he wanted to improvise a lot of the bits. So apparently, like the first scene where Voldemort takes his new body, that's all improvised.
Well, it's pretty impressive.
He does sound like he's having an orgasm when he touches Harry. I can now touch you.
Touch you.
I need to put it on DVD again. Goblet of Fire.
I mean, he must have improvised the amount of times going.
He's a bloody brilliant actor, though, I must say.
Oh yeah, I think Voldemort.
Have you ever seen?
Voldemort is my favourite ever villain.
Oh, I think he's the best kind of actor for.
Well, the Harry Potter
Voldemort.
films, as much as I don't particularly like the performances of the three leads, especially in the early films, they do give us two of the greatest on-screen performances of all time. That of Ralph Fiennes as Voldemort and Alan Rickman as Snape.
Yeah. Alan Rickman, what an actor!
And Hagrid.
Gone too soon. Sorry about that.
But
I
Snape's
just think of him saying.
Snape's performance was just iconic. Teach you
The same guy who played Hans Gruber in
mind,
Deadpool playing.
And then snare the senses.
Potter.
What's your trouble?
Mr. Potter.
Michael. Michael.
Oh my God!
Michael.
You think Severus Snape was in the room with you?
Michael Gambon was very good as Dumbledore as well. Yeah.
Did the first one die? Is that why they?
Yeah,
Richard Harris. Yes.
Richard Harris. Yes, he died.
Was it
unfortunately
alcohol? Oh, sorry. That
probably.
Might not be
he was one of the biggest drinkers.
Along with Oliver Reed as well, and
Oliver Reed and Peter O'Toole, and Richard Burton.
Oh yeah, Richard Burton. Sorry.
Richard Harris and Peter O'Toole were great friends, personal friends, and they were just enormous drinking buddies. I mean, I told Georgia when I saw him earlier today a story about Peter O'Toole in Dublin with another great actor, Peter Finch, who was Australian, about them going on a night out on the piss.
Oh, yeah.
They ended up about 4 o'clock in the morning at just a tiny little bar. And they're having a bit to drink, and the bar owner came out and said, "You've had enough, you're having no more." And they said, "Oh, no, much more. And the bar said, "No, you're out." So they ended up buying the bar.
I can imagine Harry.
That's a brilliant idea.
I mean, they
told to go out after a few more pints. I'll just buy the bar on the spot.
Yeah. They woke up the next morning and they realised, shit, what have we done? so they ran back down to the bar, discovered that the owner hadn't cashed the checks.
Oh.
And they came to an understanding, and the owner tore the checks up, and it was all fine.
He must have been doing it to play along and get them.
But Richard Harris and Peter O'Toole were great friends, and God, they drank the amount they did drink. I mean, there's so many clips of them.
Crew.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many clips on YouTube from talk shows that they did, in which they're just talking about their drinking and
very drunk as well. Or was that Oliver Reed?
That was Oliver Reed. Peter O'Toole and Richard Harris. Richard Harris actually did stop drinking for quite a long time because he realised he was too. Because he nearly died.
Must have done a lot of damage to his liver.
Yeah, it did. Well, that's what he eventually died of. I think it was 2002.
Yeah, 2002 after they finished film Chamber of Secrets.
The Chamber of Secrets, yeah. I mean, his liver was essentially knackered. Even though,
and in comes Michael Gambon, who also has a corner named after him on the Top Gear track.
Yes.
the sort of voices of Dumbledore did change dramatically. The first one,
Yeah, that was the.
did speak
It was like
Professor McGonagall, the Chamber of Secrets.
Harry, did you put that in the Goblet of Fire? What
Yeah,
did you
no.
do it?
I can't imagine Richard Harris talking like that.
The
in
big-
Harry
Harry, did you
Potter.
put it in the Goblet of Fire?
The biggest change was I can't remember. Was it Goyle?
Goyle.
Yes.
Who in the first films was a big fat white kid, and then in the last film was black.
But the,
That was
but the
crap.
thing is,
That was
Crab,
crap because
Crab.
the
who's
actor
the
for
other
that
one?
in real life got
He got arrested, I think.
Yeah, he went to prison because he
arrested.
was caught selling cannabis. Literally. Jamie Waylett, I think he was called.
I think
explain
they
it.
did. I think they did replace the character full stop. I don't think they just recast Crab as completely different.
Yeah,
to what
I
he'd
think
been
they phased
before.
him out.
Basically, the opposite of Michael Jackson.
Oh, God.
But at least he wasn't a thriller. But at least, unlike Harry Potter, he was a thriller.
Oh,
Oh,
God.
he's a smooth criminal.
But
He
but
was
another-
really, really bad.
but another thing
And
with
dangerous.
And
But
off the
another
wall.
But another thing with Alan Rickman. Alan Rickman, I know it's not from Harry Potter, but he just gave us one of the best lines ever when he was in Die Hard. I love this line.
Hans Gruber.
Yeah, he played Hans Gruber, who was the main villain in the first Die Hard
Yes.
film. And he just had one of the best lines I've ever heard in film. It was, Mr. Kage, I will count to 3. There will not be a 4.
What? That is a brilliant movie as well, Die Hard. If you've never seen it, please watch
Yeah.
it.
I've never seen
Preferably around Christmas time, though.
Yeah, but I just love it. It's the way he says it. It's just
He was
brilliant.
a stage actor as well, I believe. Before I think Die Hard was one of his first major movies. Believe it or not.
a lot of actors at that time
Especially if
did
they were
mainly do
English.
stage. Yeah, especially if they were English. A lot of actors at that time mainly Peter O'Toole and Richard Harris started out as stage actors before they went into film. Peter O'Toole's big break was Lawrence of Arabia, and he was
1960, one of the all-time classics.
and he was in his late 20s by then.
Yeah.
So, and he'd been on the stage for a long, long time. Richard Harris had his big break a lot later. He had his big break playing Oliver Cromwell, actually, which is a bit ironic, trying to get an Irishman to play one of the greatest
when he was
of the
40,
Irish
I
in
believe.
history. He was a
40
bit
something.
older, I think.
Oh.
He was in his late 30s, I think. He had to wait for a lot longer for his big break to come in film.
Now it's very common for English actors to have a career predominantly in the stage before they go into movie acting.
Oh, it never happens now. Never happens.
Now you're expected to go in the industry a lot younger.
Nowadays, you're either in the stage pretty consistently, or you start in television and then branch out into film, and then you might do the odd stage production further along down the line.
Like Hugh Jackman.
Yeah, actually, no. Hugh Jackman started on the stage. Actually, he mainly started on the stage. Yeah, one of his first acting job was playing Gaston in Beauty and the Beast on the stage.
God.
That was his first acting job.
You learn something new every day.
Yeah, he'd be one of the last ones that I can think of whose acting career really started on the stage. I mean, obviously, then it got into gear when he was cast as Wolverine in the X-Men films.
Oh, yes.
But obviously, because he did stage work before he got into film, that's why he was, so good in stuff like The Greatest Showman.
Yes.
I hate that film.
Yes, I don't like it either, but
I've never seen it, if I'll be honest.
Hugh Jackman is one of the good things in it because he's just so suited to something like that.
Yeah.
Would it be worth watching it based on Hugh Jackman alone, or in a
No.
Okay.
I do not like musicals. Full stop.
The rest of the film.
Oh,
is shite,
musicals! No. Not my cup of tea.
Yeah. Anyway, chaps.
Anyway, it's been an hour and 20 minutes.
Yeah,
No, it hasn't. It's been 5 minutes. Stop lying.
we've had We've done a very long one tonight, so I think we'll sign off.
That's what she said.
Oh, for Christ's sake. Anyway, Harry, over to you.
Oh, I thought you nicked my social media bit this morning. At the start of the show, sorry. But nevertheless.
This morning.
This morning, oh.
Sorry,
God.
I got tongue-tied. If you want to see any more gaffs of us going tits up at anything, just give us a like on Facebook or a subscribe on YouTube. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. Have an epic day.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.